There is a shortcut on your desktop which you can double click and open. You can also go to Start menu, Start Programs, VMware, VMware Server, VMware Server Console. When you open your VMware Server Console, you will be prompted to either use local host or remote host. Remember I said that do not worry about IIS because we will be using local hosts. So we're going to select the local host in this view and say OK. Okay. I'm not interested in updating, I know that. So first thing, let me do this. So if you never had VMware Server installed and you never created any machines on your machine, this is the screen you will be getting. So in inventory, as you will be creating your virtual machine, you will see them, listed one by one in this inventory. You can remove them from inventory like I did just right now, or you can do through the right mouse click, delete your virtual machine completely if you don't need it. So what are some of the options that we have here? This button, these 4 buttons, you will be using to manipulate your virtual machine. You will be manipulating the virtual machine as if it will be your physical machine. You can turn on this machine, you can turn it off, you can pause it, you can suspend it, or you can reboot it, restart. So those are the 4 buttons just for this operation. Power off, suspend, power on, and reset. These 2 buttons take and revert to snapshot. I will touch on them once we'll start talking about snapshotting functionality. Show hide directory will hide and show your inventory, just like that. Full screen, I will use this button to show you how I'm going to work in the virtual machine, so you will not be confused with so many windows, running on the same machine. So this is for the console of your virtual machine. Quick switch is a confusing button. Try not to touch it because you will be confused in the way that UI is shown. So summary view. So summary view for the machine and the console view again. Once we'll get to the virtual machine, I don't know if we'll use it or not. I will be using the full screen menu for sure. Okay, installation completed?
No.
No.
Maybe another half an hour.
Half an hour? No, I wouldn't say that. Okay then. Work with me, and then I will, everything that I will have to repeat, I will be repeating. So I will go very, very slowly. So now we're done with VMware Server installation. Now we're going to create our first virtual machine ever. So to create a virtual machine, let's start thinking hardware. Stop thinking software, start thinking hardware. You go to price and you start building your machine, your physical machine, from scratch. What are some of the components that you will be buying? CPU, memory, processor, oh, yes, CPU, RAM, yes, hard drive, thank you. You will not be able to do anything without the hard drive. So some of these components we will be pre-selecting right now as we are building our virtual machine. Some, because certain components will be pre-selected for us by default, and I will show you what and how. So, ready to start building? Okay. To create a virtual machine, VMware loves wizards, so wizard to create a virtual machine. Create a virtual machine, you can click on your virtual machine button in the VMware Server Console here, or you can go to File, New, Virtual Machine, or you can do right mouse click on Inventory and say New Virtual Machine. Doesn't matter how you will get to this virtual machine wizard, because this is the window that we are going to work on right now. So this is going to give you a guide for step-by-step instruction of how to create a virtual machine. Click on Next, and different how we're going to build it. Typical is easier and faster. and we're going to use it right now. If you'll go through custom, you will be given more options for creation of your virtual machine, which we do not need right now. Let's go through typical. Click on next. Guest operating system. Everybody remember my picture? This is the operating system we are going to install. This selection of this operating system right now will do nothing. It's except pre-installing of certain drivers in a virtualization layer, which will allow us to install this operating system later on. Make sense? Be very careful with this screen, because by default it says the version that we're going to install is Windows 2000 Professional. And I've seen some students just leave this option by default, and then during the installation of an operating system, the product starts complaining, I can't find your disk. And this is because, and this is the first thing that I'm checking as a debugging, what is guest operating system that you've selected. Be very careful. Make sure that the disk that you have in hand and you're going to be installing in your virtual machine is exactly matching the version here. Okay? So let's explore some of the virtual machine options that VMware gives us. As you can see, it's a wide spectrum of Windows, starting from Windows 3.1 all the way to Windows Vista. And again, I'm teaching this just version 1. Version 2, of course, gives a more recent version of Windows. But Windows XP, I mean, all in all, it's still the most widely used operating system even right now. So, what I didn't mention probably yet is that while building a virtual machine, you have to know that virtual machine will be limited by the sources of your hardware. What I mean by that? If your physical disk on your physical box has, I don't know, 5 gig of space. I mean, nobody uses 5 gig of space anymore, but let's assume it has 5 gig of space. And you want to create a virtual machine of 10 gig of space. Everybody understands that it will not happen. Because I cannot have a virtual machine which has a bigger disk size than my physical machine allows me. Right? Same thing with processors. If you're trying to create a dual processors virtual machine, and your physical machine has only one processor, you will not be able to do that. Make sense? Now, as you can see, there is some x86 edition. So, world is moving toward 64-bit operating system, toward 64-bit world. But if your CPU and if your host operating system is 32-bit, you will not be able to run a 64-bit guest operating system. And to demonstrate it, actually, let me see. I believe that these machines are 32-bit. So if I'll select Windows XP Professional 64-bit, my VMware server detected it and said, well, you will not be able to run this machine. Your physical machine will not allow you to do that. Okay, so this is just a hint for you to know what you can and cannot do with your virtual machine. So what other options are there? There's a few options in Linux, quite a few options in Linux, as you can see. So even when you're going to take some Unix classes, it will be a great tool to have a virtual machine, Linux virtual machine, where you can practice different Unix commands, which we're going to do today, briefly once we'll create our Linux virtual machine. So did you guys finish your Unix classes or planning to take? No, not yet? Oh well, okay. Well, you will there are classes in Unix. So, but anyway, this is thing that you will be you can do with a virtual machine. You can have a virtual machine of Linux running over your Windows operating system. A couple of options on the novel NetWare, Sun Solaris, and what I like, and among these others, there is an MS-DOS. So if you have your floppy disk with MS-DOS operating system, you can create a virtual machine and install MS-DOS. So good luck with that. But anyway, I'm not going to go through MS-DOS installation for sure. What we are going to create and install first is Windows XP Professional. Not 64-bit edition, but Windows XP Professional. This is that ISO image. Yes. This is that ISO image that I asked you to verify that you have. And you all said yes, that we have it. So this is what we will be installing in our virtual machine using this ISO image. Okay? Thing enough said about this screen. Let's go next. Name your virtual machine. Watch me as I'm typing my virtual machine name. My location is changing. What does it tell you? What does it tell you? My name and my location are the same. What is it? Creates a folder. It's a folder name. Virtual machine is nothing but a collection of files on your file system. Once you start looking from your operating system perspective, your virtual machine is nothing but a collection of files. So which makes it so easy to move, to copy, to delete, to do anything you want. Rebuilding a physical machine is quite painful. You know, you have to take a ghost image, you might have to do all this crazy stuff to protect your virtual machine, but your physical machine. But your virtual machine, you can copy, you can move, you can put on USB stick, you can take with you anywhere you want. You can, you can have your life right here on the USB stick, with all the information, with all the applications that we need. Make sense? So, whatever you're naming it, doesn't matter. Take your favorite name. And name. By default, the location, it's in C virtual machines folder, and then I'm creating another folder called Irene XP machine. Okay? Click next. Networking. Let's talk about networking. So let me actually go from bottom up, because it probably will be the easiest. So do not use a network connection. Do not use a network connection is that you have a virtual machine without any card. You cannot access any network resources. You cannot go and browse the internet. Why is it needed? God knows. Maybe, as I said, maybe there is a use case for your configuration to test how your application would work in the absence of network connectivity or even a network card, in a sense. This is not very, common use cases, because every machine right now has a network card, nearly everyone. So, but the options is there. So, if you want a machine with no network card, you can do so. Use host-only networking. What it means that I can share files. I can talk to my host. I can access file system of my host, of my physical box, of my physical operating system. And my virtual machine knows only my host and nothing else. I can't ping any other machine. I can share files with any of you guys. I cannot go on the internet again. So this is the second option. Breached and not. So differences and similarities. So similarities, both of them, you will be able to access any machines on the network. You can go and browse internet. But what is different between them? The breach networking means that your virtual machine has an IP which is different from IP of the physical machine. It has its own IP, and it lives its own life. NAT configuration, on the other hand, means that for every the way that your virtual machine's IP address will be presented to other machines on the network is the same as your host IP address. So, in other words, your virtual machine shares the same IP of your physical machine. Why is it needed? Again, if you have a limited number of IP addresses, and for example, you cannot have more, that NAT is an option for you. Or another use case. Let's say you have a secure file system which allows access from certain IP addresses only. It will prevent your virtual machine to access shared resources because its IP is not in the list of allowed resources to be accessed by from that secure file system. But if I'm assigning my virtual machine the same address as my host, and let's say my host has access to it, then NAT again is the way to go. Questions? Concerns? No. Everybody clear on the networking, right? Okay. We're going to use bridge networking, and we will, once we'll create a virtual machine, I'll show you that you can all go and browse internet, everything will be fine. Click next. Now, do not click finish just yet. By the way, everybody else who finished installation?
No.
Still?
I got an error.
Just click continue anyway. If you got this error,
Yeah.
keep continue anyway.
But it came again.
They will come again and continue anyway. Just click continue. I need to talk to Okay. Okay, everybody continue, clicking on continue anyway, and hopefully we'll go through the installation. Now, disk size. This is the disk size of your virtual machine. It cannot exceed the disk size of your physical machine. It's obvious, right? And another checkbox which is already there, it tells me allocate disk space right now, because it will greatly enhance my performance and blah blah. I'm not interested in in the performance of my virtual machine, because I'm going to use it for just basic user interaction. And I do not want to take all this 8 gigabytes of space of my physical disk. What if I uncheck this checkbox? That means that I'm going to allow my virtual disk to grow up to 8 gigabytes over time. So when I will create it first, it will be just a few megabytes or kilobytes. And so it's very, very small. And once I will install an operating system in it, my Windows XP operating system will take about 1.2, 1.5 megabytes. And then you will see that your virtual disk will start growing. Okay? So be careful with the resources of your physical machine. You do not need this 8 gigabytes right away. And you can change the disk size, of course. You can put it anything you want. But again, do not put it too low, because at least you need to have an operating system running on your disk. But you do not have to, again, reallocate all this 10 gigabytes right away. What will happen if you reach this, the maximum limit of your disk size? What you can do at that point is you can add a second disk, and I'm going to show it to you in this class as well, how to add a second virtual disk to your virtual machine. Okay? So if you run out of space, again, it's not the end of the world. So clear about the first checkbox, right? Disk size. Now split this into 2 gigabyte files.
Which network connection we have to use? Bridge networking?
Bridge networking is fine. Yes, take just the defaults. Scratch it. Make sure that your guest operating system is Windows XP Professional. This is the only thing that you need to be aware of careful about. Okay? Split disk into 2 gigabyte files. Let's talk about file system. Let's quickly try to remember FAT32. FAT32 file system formatting. Anybody remember that? Pre-NT file formatting. I know it's been a while, long journey. But do you remember the differences between FAT32 and NTFS file system? One of them, at least. What is a file system? Guys, come on. Don't scare me. You will be saving your files, right? The file system has to be, your disk has to be formatted in a certain way, with different formats, right? Unix uses its own, disk formatting system. Windows has a list of, formats. VMware even has its own VMFS file system. There are some Zine or something file system. I mean, lots of different formatting. But why we have this is, again, I want to talk about Windows FAT32 file system. One of the differences between just before Windows NT was introduced is that the file size was limited by 2 gigabytes on FAT32 operating system. So if you are, God forbid, saving your virtual machine to a network resource which is formatted with FAT32, this option will be pre-selected for you by default and disabled. Okay? This is why, if you ever get to that point, so I need you to know that this can happen. But splitting this into 2 gigabyte files is related to the file system that where your host operating system is formatted with, or which or disk where you will be saving your virtual machine. Okay, did I understand what I said? Okay. You can say, as I said, virtual machine is a folder with files. Files can be moved, files can be copied. You can take the directory, you can copy it, you can move it anywhere you want. What if you're taking a USB external hard drive, and that USB external hard drive, for some reason, is formatted with FAT32? You will need to be able to have these options checked. And you need to be aware that your file system will be split into 2 gigabyte parts. Okay?
It's a splitting of disk is formatting of files.
Splitting disk into 2 gigabyte files is related to FAT32 formatting system, because FAT32 formatting system does not allow disk size more than 2 gigabytes. Okay? I think now we're clear.
Oh.
Yes? Guys, we're ready to complete our installation?
No.
Good. Now let's go and finish. Congratulations. You created your first virtual machine. Easy? Yes?
Should we check or uncheck, allocate all these?
Uncheck. Uncheck. Yes. Make sure that allocate disk in right now is unchecked, because you do not want to pre-select all this 8 gig or whatever you selected for your disk sizes. So, virtual machine. What is it? What is it from the perspective of VMware server? It has devices. Hard disk, it has a hard disk, the one that we pre-selected. IDE. IDE was selected because IDE's disk is recommended for Windows XP. Other options is SCSI. One will create a virtual machine with Linux operating system. That the disk size will be SCSI disk size, not IDE. Ethernet, bridge. Remember where it came from?
Network.
From network configuration, exactly. Number of processors and memory. These are the two options that we did not select, yet it was pre-selected for us. Well, processors, by default, it's one, but if I'll double click on it, if I'll double click on the processors option, I can configure my virtual machine to have 2 processors, if I want. So if I select 2 and click OK, I can change it right here. But again, be careful. If your physical machine has only 1 processor, you will see exactly the same warning saying that your machine has only 1 processor, you can have 2 processors. Okay, 2 I don't really need. 2 I am perfectly fine with 1. Memory. Why 256? Why do you guys think it was selected as a 256?
Because it's on the host machine, we have that much of 256.
It's a minimum recommended memory for Windows XP Professional. It came from by default from the selection of your operating system which you are going to run in your virtual machine. You will go through the custom configuration dialog, or through the custom configuration wizard. We would be prompted to select the memory size that we want. Still, since we bypassed all the things that could be pre-selected for us by VMware, then this option was already selected and and present it to us. Doesn't mean that we cannot reconfigure it.
Oh,
By double clicking it, we can increase or decrease RAM of our virtual machines. Again, with RAM, be very careful, because if you have a physical machine, and right now I have, well, one of my machines has 8 gig of RAM, another has 4, I believe. But if you have a, let's say, machine which is quite shy on RAM, let's say you have, I don't know, 1 gig of RAM, and let's say you created a couple of virtual machines, and both of them use 512 meg of RAM. If you're trying to power on 2 virtual machines, so your physical machine has only 1 gig of RAM, and you're trying to bring up 2 more, and both of them need 512 megabyte of RAM, you will not be able to do so. Because A, RAM is used by your operating system itself, the one that is running on your physical machine, and then you're asking more than 1 gig of RAM to allocate to your virtual machines. Okay? So you will be able to bring up as many virtual machines as your RAM allows you to. Or you can manipulate with RAM of your virtual machines. If, let's say, it doesn't need 512, you can safely run with 256, like Windows XP will be just fine. So you can decrease, or increase this memory at, anytime you want. This is a configurable property of a virtual machine. Any questions on that? Okay, good.
So if we, suppose if we increase the RAM size and we have 2 or more virtual machines created, more than the RAM used by the physical machine, will it pop up a message you cannot use it, you cannot allocate?
You will not be able to run them at the same time. You can create them, but RAM is used only when your virtual machine is running at the runtime. You can have 3, 5, 10, even each of them is 1 gig, and 512, and you can run them all one by one at a time. But you need to power off the other machines and then power on another machine. Make sense?
Actually, I'm creating this progress, creating this.
Because you did not uncheck allocated space right now. So now, where was it? Okay, so clear on the RAM, right? RAM is allocated at the runtime and is again is a subject to the RAM of your physical machine. You can run many machines at the same time as long as your physical RAM allows you. Now, so that's what the virtual machine looks like from VMware Server Console. Now let's take a look what this look like from our host operating system, because all I talked right now, all we saw right now is the internals of of the machine from the virtualization layer perspective. Now, remember where you save your virtual machines? So I saved my virtual machine on C, virtual machines folder, and I believe the name I gave it was Irene XP machine. Okay, as you can see, this is my folder, this is my virtual machine. That's all. It's a folder with the files. Couple of files I need you to be aware of. One is .vmx, and another is .vmdk. What is VMX and what is VMDK? VMX is a configuration file. If you double click on it, it will open up another server console. So this is an extension and which will open virtual machine in a VMware console. However, VMX is also an ASCII file. So if you do right mouse click on it and say open with Notepad, for example, you'll see a lot of interesting information about your virtual machine. pretty much as you were able to see in VMware console. These two first lines are related to VMware internals because with each VMware server version, the virtual hardware version and config version is changing. Why is it done? Because in every version, for example, VMware adds USB 3.0 support or USB 2.0 support. And to differentiate which version is supporting what, they're assigning this internal numbers to it. Memory size of 256. This is the RAM that we pre-allocated for this machine. We can modify this RAM from the configuration file if you want to, but I would not recommend you. If you have to, you can use it. Okay. ID 0.0 file name .vmdk. I'm going to come back to that just in a second. There is a second ID device, which is a CD-ROM. So our virtual machine has a CD-ROM, although we did not reselect it. When I was creating the VMware, I understood that there is a CD-ROM in our machine, so our virtual machine will have a CD-ROM. Ethernet present true, and what is it? Where is my bridge? Might not be in here. So it just tells me that I do have an Ethernet card. This is the name of my machine that I'm going to, that is going to be displayed for everybody. This is an operating system which will be run in my virtual machine at some point. And that's pretty much it. So, what you need to remember from here is a VMX, it's an ASCII file, it's a configuration file where you can manipulate certain properties of your virtual machine. And just as we were able to modify them right here in VMware console. What is this VMDK file? VMDK file is your virtual disk. This is the most important file of all, so to speak. It contains all of your data that you're going to install. Operating system, all applications that you're going to install. It's all going to have to be here on this VMDK file. It's a binary file. You will not be able to open it with Notepad or anything like that, because you won't be able to read it. And as you will see, over time, this disk, this VMDK file, will continue to grow. Speaking in the hardware terms, if you open up your box, your physical hardware, and you remove your disk, your physical disk, you will get your VMDK file. Okay? All good? So now we know where the files of our virtual machine is from the host operating system perspective, and we know what our virtual machine looks like from inside of VMware Server Console. Now, let's power on our first newly created virtual machine. To do so, you can click on Start, or you can click on the green button right there in the tool menu. Start this virtual machine, or clicking the power on button will power on our virtual machine. So it's the same as we're clicking on the button right here. But we're not clicking it here, we're clicking it in VMware console. This is a display, a monitor of our virtual machine. What does it tell me? It tells me that I'm powering on something with no operating system on it, and no installation disk provided. So VMware is going to try for a while until it reaches timeout, and it will tell me that, well, I'm giving up. You didn't give me, I did find an operating system, and you did not provide me an installation disk. I do not know what to do. Right here. Not bootable CD, floppy or hard disk was detected. So nothing, just the BIOS on your, on your hard disk right now. Play. Now what we need is we need to provide an installation disk, and we need to install an operating system. So our installation disk is our ISO image We do not have a physical media. We could install an operating system from a physical media, or we can install it from an ISO image. And today we're going to install it from an ISO image. Make sense? Okay. Let's click OK here, and let's power off our virtual machine, because it's useless right now. Now, CD-ROM. If you double click on this on the CD-ROM, you will see a few things. The first one, the connection, tells me that I'm using right now a physical drive of my host. I'm trying to find an installation disk in your CD-ROM, but I didn't find it. And it gives me other options. The second option that I see is a use ISO image. So if I click on here, the browse, the edit box next to my browse button is enabled. If I click in browse button, I can now navigate to the ISO image location, which is right here. And once I allocate it, I can double click on it. And now in my use ISO image, I have a full path to my Windows XP Vault EN ISO image. Everybody understand what I just did? First thing that I did when I was here, my connection was set at use physical device. I clicked on use ISO image, and then using browse button, I navigated to the location of my Windows XP Vault ISO file, clicked open, double click on it, and now I see that my virtual machine CD-ROM now points to Windows XP Vault EN ISO image. You with me? Everybody were able to do that? No? We can find it? To search, we got that? First we need to find where this WXP Vault EN file is. You probably need to search and find where the location is of the ISO. Just usually yes, but you know, because it could be just on the desktop.
You don't have the CD?
No, I'm sure that we copy the sensor which yes. So guys, we are again we are pointing our CD-ROM to we're pointing our CD-ROM device to the ISO image. Okay? So now I provided my media, my installation, my file with an operating system. Now I'm ready to install Windows XP Professional in my virtual machine. Yeah, yeah. Just click open. Yes, everybody did it? Good. Click on OK. And now my CD-ROM device used to say what automatic or something. Now it says it uses this my image. Now I'm ready to start my Windows XP installation. I'm powering my virtual machine again. And now I'm getting already a different screen. This is already not VMware, it's Microsoft. This is installation of Windows XP Professional Operating System.